Innovative Approaches from Intel SFI. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Innovative Approaches from Intel SFI Ambassadors and EU Educators, organized by the Scientix STEM Alliance, the Future Classroom Lab, and Intel. My name is Luigi Brisco, and I work at European Schoolnet, and I have the pleasure to be your host today. First thing first, let me share some technical details. We'll be sharing valuable information and helpful links with you during the webinar, so keep an eye on the chat. Very important, don't forget to sign the signature list. We are sharing the link in the chat. By signing the signature list, you'll validate your participation in the webinar, making you eligible to receive a certificate of participation that we will share via email later. And last, you can engage with the speakers today by posing your questions in the chat, and we will address them later in the session. Today's webinar will focus on the experience of 4 Intel SFI ambassadors who will share their inspiring and innovative strategies for integrating STEM teaching with digital literacy in the classroom. They'll introduce us to some powerful educational resources developed by Intel. Perhaps some of you are already familiar with the Intel Skills for Innovation Starter Pack. This fantastic toolkit offers ready-made activities designed to help educators rethink how technologies can be leveraged in education, preparing students for the future workforce. It is my pleasure to welcome Margaret Purdue, one of our speakers for today. Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
Margaret is the Skills for Innovation Community Manager at Intel, and she brings over 9 years of experience in community engagement and collaboration with expertise in educational leadership and program development, successfully driving growth and building vibrant communities. Before handing things over to Margaret, I'd like to quickly walk you through today's agenda. To kick things off, as mentioned, our 4 Intel ambassadors will present some resources from the Starter Pack, as an example of how you can bring these tools in your own classroom. After that, we will transition into an insightful roundtable discussion where our guest ambassadors will dive into their experience with SFI. This is your chance to get involved too. Feel free to send your questions through the chat, and that will be addressed during this discussion. Now, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Margaret and let her introduce herself a bit more and introduce the ambassadors as well. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you so much, Luigi, and I am so excited to be here. I am, like Luigi said, I am the Intel Skills for Innovation Community Manager. I have a background in education. I'm actually an educator by trade. I taught in the classroom for 6 years. I taught math, science, and communications until I made my transition to the ed tech world, where I get to work now with wonderful educators like the ambassadors that you will get to hear from today. In my role as a community manager, I work to curate events that we have on the Intel SFI platform, along with our professional development and our over 100 different starter packs and lesson plans, which you'll hear about from our ambassadors today. Additionally, I work to help curate our newsletter and help to facilitate our ambassador program, where I get to reach out and talk and engage with the wonderful educators that we have on our Intel Skills for Innovation platform. The SFI platform, that we call it for short, so you may hear that today, is a wonderful platform that is open to all educators and all individuals, and anyone can register and utilize the content for free. Also, anyone who's an educator can become an ambassador as well. So the reason that our ambassadors are getting to speak here today is because they are our educators who are outstanding members in their educational community and have taken that next step and are really passionate about what they not only do in their classroom, but wanting to extend that to others. And if that is something that aligns with you, I would encourage you to continue to dive into the SFI platform and our ambassador community as well, because you will see today in hearing from our ambassadors that they are absolutely phenomenal phenomenal individuals, and I am just so incredibly grateful to get to work with them and hear their insights, especially coming from someone with a background in education and seeing all of the amazing things that they are doing right now. Because we know being an educator right now, no matter where you are in the world, is not an easy task, and we greatly appreciate them here at Intel SFI. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our first ambassador to be able to start in on their presentation. So I want to welcome to the screen. It's kind of, I'm like, welcome to the stage, but it's not really. Welcome to the virtual stage. Welcome to the screen, I guess. Todor, who is going to, I'll let him introduce himself and get started on his slides. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Margaret, for introducing me. Hello to everyone. I'm Todor Atanasov. I'm from Bulgaria, Plovdiv. I'm a certified Intel Skills for Innovation ambassador for let's say, for a month or two. But I'm very excited to have the opportunity to work on this platform and to implement it in my day-to-day work with my students. I teach in a foreign language school here in Plovdiv, and my students are from the so-called 8th and 9th grade currently in Bulgaria, which is 14 to 16 years old. From the first slide, you can see that my background is from the private business, let's say. I have been managing hotels and been working in the hospitality industry as a whole. I think that this experience helps me every day in communication with my students, teachers, other teachers, parents, and so on. So this background, I think it's mostly unusual here in Bulgaria, but it gives me a lot of insights on the way business is done and on the way people should communicate with each other. So to go straight to slide number 2, Margaret, I'm very excited to share my journey using the as a matter of fact starter pack in my classroom, focusing on its impact, the challenges that we overcame, and the outcomes that we achieved. To continue on the next one, the as a matter of fact starter pack is designed to help students critically assess media by identifying fake news. It integrates lessons on fake news detection techniques, natural language processing, and the basic of machine learning to equip students with the skills needed in today's digital world. To continue on, fake news refers to misinformation presented as news, often with the intent to deceive the public. Its impact can be profound, distorting public opinion, influencing political decisions, and causing societal discord. Teaching students to recognize those fake news is crucial for fostering informed and critical media consumers. Next one is fake news. Often, what basically is fake news, they often employ techniques like misleading headlines, sensational headlines, borrowing legitimacy from credible sources, and blending unrelated truths. For example, a headline like the one on the slide might sensationalize a minor event, or an article might cite a legitimate source out of context to add false credibility. Recognizing these techniques is key to identifying fake news. So then we go to natural language processing, or NLP, which helps computers to understand human language. In our lesson, students learned how to use Python and Jupyter notebooks to analyze text for fake news. They engaged in hands-on activities, running code to import and process data, and using tools like Count Vectorizer and other platforms to score words based on frequency and importance. Machine learning enables computers to learn from data patterns. We use Python to build models that classify news as real or fake. Students uploaded data sets, split them into training and testing sets, and applied various classification techniques. They learned to evaluate the model accuracy using confusion metrics and adjust the dataset size to improve model performance. It's quite technological, but the starter packs provides it in a easy bit by bit pieces, so it will be easier for the students to collaborate. For the next slide, interactive activities played a significant role in our engagement. For example, most of the students participated in debates about the credibility of different news sources that we used and worked in groups to identify fake news articles. Those activities encouraged active participation and, of course, critical thinking, which is the most important thing. For the next slide, group discussions were integral to our approach. As I mentioned, students shared their findings on fake news articles, not only during the classes, but in their day-to-day life. We discussed the various techniques that those fake news use them and the teams behind the sensational headlines used and to create them. These collaborative methods and this environment help students to develop analytical skills and learn, of course, from each other. Further on the next slide, we had some hands-on projects which were essential for reinforcing the things that we learned during the lessons. We used techniques to analyze text, identify significant words. We built Python programs to classify news articles based on the models that I mentioned earlier. For the next slide, the activity significantly improved students' critical thinking skills. The most important lesson, not learning about Python, but learning to have a critical thinking. The students became adept to questioning the validity of information and analyzing sources critically. The shift from passive consumption to active thinking and analyzing of media was crucial to the crucial outcome of the whole lesson and of the whole starter pack. Next slide. Through the program or the starter pack, the students' media literacy improved significantly. They learned to differentiate between reliable and unreliable sources, understood the impact of media on the public opinion, and became more discerning consumers of news. Those skills are vital in today's informational-rich environment where you have to really pick the truth, to find the truth. For the next slide, students gained substantial technical skills, as I mentioned, in NLP and machine learning. We use Python, and those skills are not only relevant for detecting fake news, of course, also valuable for the future academic and professional pursuits in data science and technology, maybe. On the next slide, I will mention that we, of course, encountered several technical challenges. Software installation, of course, was difficult from time to time. We had some complex code that even I could not understand, and I needed further reading and resources. But we overcame those issues. We provided detailed troubleshooting guides to the students. We had additional support session. So we ensured that all students could successfully run their code and have a success in it. Another difficulty mentioned in the next slide were the varying skill levels among the students. As I mentioned, I teach in a language school, so they are digitally competent, but on different levels. Some students were already proficient in Python, while others were beginners or had no idea. They were thinking that it was a snake. To address this, we offer differentiated instruction based on the learning levels, and we allowed more advanced students to assist those who are struggling. On the next slide, I'll mention that we had several solutions to address the challenges, provided additional tutorials, one-to-one help sessions, and we were adjusting the difficulty of the assignments, mostly upwards, since we had the ground level finished. On the next slide, the strategies which were implemented in incorporating real-world examples of fake news. We encourage collaborative projects using the technology, and it was quite engaging. Those innovative, let's say, approaches help students connect theory to practice and maintained, I can say, a high level of engagement throughout the session. In the next slide, I'll mention that the experience taught is the importance of flexibility and responsiveness to student needs. We learned that providing a variety of learning resources and being open to their feedback and to their needs, it was key to improving the program and getting the most of it. In the final slides, what I can say, I can recommend being patient with the technical challenges that you may see in this starter pack, because I think it was one of the most technically challenging because of the difficult codes we had. But fostering inclusive environments, listening to the student needs, making them comfortable, asking for help, and integrating real-world application. I mean, not just theory, just showing them how they can put this, what they've learned into practice, and encouraging collaboration, where this mix of techniques will significantly enhance your learning outcomes. On the final slide, I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope that this presentation gave you an insight on one of the most difficult starter packs, in my opinion. And if you have any question, maybe I can answer them further on in the round table. So thank you very much for having me and for the opportunity to speak to you. I hope it was interesting to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Todor. Sorry, I was muted. Now to our next speaker and next ambassador for today. So I will leave the floor to Semih. Thank you, Semih.
You're welcome. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Turkey. My name is Semih. I'm a science teacher. I'm also an Intel SFI Ambassador. I made Intel SFI and SFI Starter Pack to the Intel's SFI Competition Educator Challenge organized as part of the STEM Discovery Week. Since then, I have been trying to implement different activities in the Intel SFI Starter Pack in my classroom. Today, I would like to talk about two projects in the Intel SFI Starter Pack that I have implemented in my classroom. The next page, please. Thank you. My first project named Music Through the Coding. This project was about the rhythm in music and algorithm and coding. In this project, we used a microbyte. First, we discovered simple musical rhythms for the music teacher in my school. And then we created simple rhythms with block-based coding with microbyte. Finally, my students designed their own music and rhythms by coding microbits. And the second project, next slide, please. Yes, the second project name is Catapultos. This project was about the concept of force, motion, and speed. First, we started with a hands-on activity. I asked my students to design catapults from simple materials. Then we played tic-tac-toe by throwing ping pong balls with catapults. After the game, we investigated the effect of different variables on the catapult using Unity 3D engine. For example, gravity and speed, change the ball weight and launch angle, etc. In the challenge, at the end of the activity, we played with the different variables and completed the tasks of shooting targets, knocking over boxes and shooting baskets. If you Okay, and now I invite you to watch the video, if you can, this project. Maybe yes, thank you. Yes, this part, we prepare catapult, simple materials. And change the angle for shooting, and we play tic-tac-toe. Yes, we will use the Unity 3D engine. Yes, some challenge for the Unity. My students change the variables, different type of variables. Change the angle, change the weight, and try some shoots. Yes, change the gravity and the ball is up. Thank you. Finally, I recommended using the activities included the Intel SFI starter pack, because all activities have a guideline, learning objectives, presentation, and different technology tools. For example, I used Microbit and Unity for the first time thanks to these activities, and designed with an interdisciplinary approach. It supports teacher collaboration. I think you should try it too. Thank you for listening and attention. If you want to ask a question, the question and answer section. Thank you. Margaret. I didn't hear you.
Oh, my
Okay, yes.
headphones,
Yes.
are they? Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
It is morning time where I am, and I had just gotten a message from my son's school. So excuse me, I was checking in on that as we're continuing to talk about education. And we are going to go ahead and introduce our next ambassador. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to her as she speaks about her experience with Intel Skills for Innovation.
Thank you, Margaret, and hello, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today to share my story of how Intel Skills for Innovation Starter Pack came into my classroom. This is my short bio, but I will prefer the next slide, please, where I would like to present a short timeline of my professional journey. My journey as a math teacher began after I graduated and started my career in education with a passion for innovation and teaching. And just a very pivotal moment came in 2014 years when I embraced professional development opportunities through European SchoolNet Academy and a little bit later Scientix and STEM Alliance project. And the highlight of my journey was in 2023 and 2024 when I proudly stood among the winners of Intel's award during the STEM Discovery campaign. So the next slide, what will I present today? It's how two Intel Skills for Innovation starter packs, robot geometry, and a modified version of Volume Challenge came to life into my classroom. As a STEM and technology enthusiast, always I'm looking for ways to make learning engaging and meaningful, and these resources truly brought a spark of excitement and discovery. My 7th and 8th grade students were learning about properties of quadrilaterals, and not just by writing notes or solving problems on paper, but by programming robots and designing virtual reality games. And the next slide, that is about how robot geometry starter pack was in my classroom. We started with a short but powerful video about what is robotics. This sparked a lovely discussion in the classroom with students sharing their ideas on how robots are shaping our world. And then came aha moment. Can we program a robot to move? And the real intention was to learn geometry and properties of quadrilaterals. We did this with a Robotify application. Robotify is a simple for using application, very similar with other block coding applications that students are familiar with. They started with basic, programming the robot to move around so as to draw the square and rectangles, and only with 2 blocks, move forward and rotate about given degree. These 2 blocks were enough to learn students to make the robot move. But the real magic, the real learning happened when students started with deconstructing geometry. They were breaking down different types of quadrilaterals, not only squares and rectangles, but also parallelograms, rhombus, deltoids, and so on, discovering their properties of sides, angles, and diagonals through hands-on experience and applying their math knowledge, but now in a real-world context. And really, it was incredible to see how engaged they were. And it wasn't just about getting the robot to move, but it was about testing, redesigning, collaborating, and solving problems along the way. We have many wow moments and also the challenges, of course. But that's where the real learning happened, by facing and overcoming all the challenges, as I said, by collaborating. I will please to play the video from students' work. Here is just a short example of one task of students where they, after deconstructing all geometry of rectangle connected with their diagonals, unknown lengths, unknown diagonals, they programmed the robot to move and to draw the rectangle, but with given sizes of angles and sides, and diagonals, of course. Very simple, but very engaging for my students. And the next slide is about the next starter pack, the volume challenge, but as I said, modified as quadrilateral challenge. We decide to turn these things into a game named Quadrilateral Challenge. And this activities was led by my 8th grade students that are members of coding club in our school. They took the focus on the properties of quadrilaterals too, but they created a virtual reality game where their 7th grade classmates could test their knowledge that they have gained through previous activities. The 8th graders now became game designers, learning the ins and outs of CoSpace platform, where they are designed the 2-level VR game, actually a quiz about the properties of quadrilaterals with questions asked by virtual character. And if the student gives the correct answer, the shirt of character would turn in green. The experience of playing the game on a mobile phone and on the smartboard on in our classroom was enough to get students hooked, even we don't have VR glasses in our classroom. As they played, they were reinforcing what they had learned, but in a fun and interactive way. And the pride on the faces of 8th grade students who had designed and programmed the entire game also was priceless. These were 2 starter packs that I present, implementation of them I present here. And on the next slide, I would like to share with you some takeaways. I highly recommend using Intel Skills for Innovation starter packs in your classroom, and I will tell you why. First, the activities are designed to be teacher-friendly. Everything teacher needs is provided, from clear instructions to ready-made resources you can find in all starter packs of Skill for Innovation, like Educator Guide, resources, and teaching deck. A second reason is that this pack offers innovative learning environment where students are motivated by technology. Whether they are programming a robot as my students or creating a VR game as 8th graders in my school. The possibilities are endless, and you will see the level of engagement is incredible. And what is very important, students don't just passively absorb the information, but they are active creators, designers, and problem solvers. Another reason why is that it's not just about the knowledge. My students learned a lot about quadrilaterals, but very important is that they developed crucial 21st century skills like problem solving, computational thinking, and even socio-emotional skills through group work. They learn how to share ideas, to collaborate, and to overcome challenges together. And finally, the activities can be adapted. I actually adapted these 2 starter packs. For example, the robot geometry is starter packs that initially is for elementary grade students, but by changing the task, not only to draw simple square and quadrilaterals, and adding more complicated tasks for other type of quadrilaterals and more complicated properties, I level up, and this starter pack was suitable for my 7th grade students. Also, the other starter pack initially is for volume challenge code, but we modified to be quadrilateral challenge, and the creation of game was about the properties of quadrilateral. And the next slide, where also I want to share with you one recommendation more. So if you want to go deeper with philosophy of Intel starter packs, I recommend you to take a look at how to create your own starter pack course. This is really a valuable opportunity for professional development of teachers, of those teachers who want to learn how to create real tech integrated learning activities. So thank you for the time, and at the end of my presentation, I want to leave you with just one sentence. I believe, and it is shown that it's true, that technology has a power to transform our classroom into space of exploration and discovery if it is used with appropriate real-life problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experiences. I think a really great thing that you had mentioned about the Intel Skills for Innovation starter packs is that they can be adapted to the different grade levels. If, just because on the platform you see it mapped to a specific content area or a specific grade, that doesn't mean it always has to stay there, right? We can use our skills and intuition as educators to be able to adapt these different concepts and starter packs and ideas to be able to fit the needs of our students. I think that is one of the superpowers of educators, is taking that content and figure out a way that's going to best fit the needs of our students. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We are going to go ahead and transition to our last speaker before I believe we hit the round table questions. So if you have had any questions and you haven't put them in the chat, feel free to do that now, as we will get to those after this last presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over now.
Hello, dear all. My name is Stavroula Skiada and I come from Greece. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me to this webinar to present the implementation of the Starter Pack Eco-Narrative. As an Intel SFI Ambassador, I joined the Ambassadors family in June 2023. I'm a computer science and ICT teacher, and I have been working in primary and secondary education since 2003, so I have 21 years of teaching experience in computer labs. As a responsible teacher of the environmental team at my school, eco-narrative was a perfect fit for my green activism and my specialty. The starter pack was implemented by the 5th grade, 11 years old students at the 7th Primary School of Nea Philadelphia in Athens. So, let's move on to the starter pack implementation process. Each starter pack consists of pre-designed technology-infused activities and is characterized by the elements you can see on the left side of the slide. Thus, eco-narrative is aimed at primary teachers and students, is linked to the geography lesson, is based on the innovative methodology of design thinking, and cultivates digital and data processing skills. In the first phase, students understand and communicate the impact of their ecological and carbon footprint, and in the second phase, using Microsoft Excel and Sway software, calculate their footprints, visualize data, and create data-driven narratives. But what were the learning objectives achieved after the implementation of eco-narrative? Students understood the impact of human actions on global warming, learned to calculate and estimate the impact of their carbon footprint on global climate change, and all this through charts in Microsoft Excel software. Finally, students learned to communicate and disseminate the results of their work by creating an evidence-based narrative using Microsoft PowerPoint. We used PowerPoint rather than the Microsoft Sway suggested by the starter pack because the students do not have an Office 365 account. One of the advantages of starter packs is that they can be adapted and teachers can use software they already have in their classrooms. In the introduction phase, we watched a video about how the production of a smartwatch affects the climate of the planet and how companies, organizations, and people themselves contribute to climate change. Following the design thinking process, we were in the first stage, empathy, where students tried to identify the problem and how others are feeling about it. Continuing with the introduction of the starter pack, and the empathy stage, we talked about the 17 global goals, the harmful effects of climate change, and specifically about Goal 13, climate action. We tried to give an answer to the questions: how do our choices, actions, and habits affect the environment and our lives now and in the future? And second question, how each of us can contribute to the achievement of Goal 13. So we moved on the next stage of development. At this stage, we calculated through a specific website suggested by the starter pack our carbon footprint. The carbon footprint was calculated regarding food, shelter, mobility, goods, and services. At the end of the calculation process, we studied the results, facts, and figures by consumption category, and we compared our individual results to the results of the whole country, Greece. Then we used the Microsoft Excel app to analyze our data that was derived from the carbon footprint calculation. Namely, we calculated what percentage of our carbon footprint corresponds to our total ecological footprint. Next step was the visualization of our data. We proceeded with the representation of our results by creating charts in MS Excel and formatting them. During the third stage of the design thinking process, students were ready to generate ideas. So, moving on to the phase of ideation, students using PowerPoint created a data narrative with information-driven insights and strategies to reduce their carbon and ecological footprint. Here you can see my students working on PowerPoint, communicating the results and proposing solutions. So now let's see some of my students' outputs. On this slide and the next one, I have chosen to show you some of my students' work and the imaginative way they selected to disseminate their results and their work. So thank you for your attention. I hope that after the presentation of all these engaging starter packs by myself and the other ambassadors, we will have the opportunity to welcome you to the Intel SFI team. Margaret?
Thank you so much. I think at this point, we're going to open it up to the round table as well as any other questions. But first, I'll let Luigi come on and see if there are any other housekeeping matters before we do that.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you to our ambassadors. This was very insightful, and thank you for your sharing your contribution and expertise. So yes, we are now transitioning to the conversation, and we also gathered some questions from the chat. But apart from besides from all the compliment to our guests here, and but I also believe before going to the question chat, Margaret, that you have some questions for our ambassadors to dive into some aspects of the starter packs and their experience and how they used it and so on.
Of course. Yes, thank you. I have a few different questions for our ambassadors. Not only experience as been transformational and how it's impacted their path and their journey as an educator. So I believe my first question is for Semih, and I think it is how has SFI helped you to be able to collaborate more with other teachers? What has it been able to provide for you through the Intel SFI platform?
Yes, as a science teacher, I received great help from my teachers at my school to integrate, for example, music and technology into my classroom and lessons. I received support from my colleagues about rhythm and notation in music and Unity, micro:bit, and coding in ICT teachers in my school. This was very valuable for me because I think this good collaboration creates an interdisciplinary learning opportunity.
Awesome, thank you. Do any of our other ambassadors have anything to add to that question of how has SFI allowed you to collaborate with other educators? If you have something additionally to add. If not, we'll go ahead and move on to our my next question that I have for Todor, which is how does Skills for Innovation fit into the broader digitalization of education for schools? I know, AI, technology, that's a big, they're big buzzwords right now, but how have you found that SFI specifically fits into that for your school specifically and education?
Thank you for the question. Basically, I consider SFI something like on the top of the pyramid, because when we started digitalization in my school, we began from the groundwork. We began with the administrative processes, using forms, changing from paper to digital. This was the bare minimum we can do, and implementing it, the digitalization and new teaching methods in the teaching process. I think this is something that we strived. So it fits perfectly with our vision to have digital and integrated studying methods and learning methods. So currently, I think SFI is really the top thing that we have implemented in our school. Hopefully, I'm not saying the top of the pyramid, but something in the middle, because we can always improve on new technologies and new ideas.
I love that, and I love that you're not saying it's the final thing. We can keep, there's always room for improvement. Though we do like being at the top of the pyramid. We acknowledge that we are, and we want at Skills for Innovation want to continue to grow and achieve more as well. So that is that feedback and your comments are greatly appreciated. To our for my last two ambassadors, my fellow female teachers, what strategies have you two been able to find most effective in encouraging other educators and teachers or admins, stakeholders, anyone involved in the educational realm and world? What have you found is effective in encouraging them to adopt SFI tools, approaches, get plugged into the professional development community? What have you all done or tried and found that is helpful for getting people more engaged? Whomever wants to go first. Rock, paper, scissors.
Can I
okay.
speak first?
Stavroula.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, this is an interesting question. Well, in order to encourage my fellow teachers to adopt the Intel SFI starter packs in their classrooms, I organized workshops in the computer lab where they experienced the SFI tools and resources as students. So through the hands-on activities that are included in the starter packs, they realized how these activities can enhance students' engagement, improve their learning outcomes, and make assessments more efficient. They also recognized the fact that the pre-designed activities can reduce lesson preparation time without sacrificing quality. I also assured the less tech-confident teachers, that I will support them if they encounter technical issues when implementing the starter packs activities.
That's huge. And I think that what you said there is one, that the approach of letting the educator experience something as the student is a great approach, because they're getting to see firsthand what is their student going to be, engaging with. And I think a lot of times if an educator finds something engaging and fun, it's that much easier to be like, oh, this would be so, like, I would want to do this in my classroom. Because when your students are engaged as an educator, that's just, I feel, at least
Makes
for
you
me,
happy.
like that was
Yes.
what fueled me. Yes, it's like it's not
Yes.
like a tangible thing. It's just like it's when you see them engaged, and I think why so many of us are educators and love what we do is like when you see that like kind of light up and they're like engaged and excited. But I loved the point that you made, not only of providing opportunities for them to access content, but really, letting them know that if they need assistance, that they need help with the technology, that you are there to support them. And I think there are a lot of educators that, which is another reason why we have the professional development on the platform as well, is to be able to provide those resources and back up our educators, because a lot of us, I know myself included, there were even times, when I was still in the classroom where I was a little nervous to take on a new technology because I myself didn't feel 100% comfortable with it. But I think for educators to have an opportunity to kind of go through it and know there is someone there to help support them. I think another really important thing just for educators as well is and to let your students know is like, you may not know it all. You're like this is the amount of technology that is coming online and that is now available that wasn't available when we were like, it has exploded. So we are learning right alongside our students, and it's okay to say that. It's okay to not know everything. And I think a lot of times as educators, sometimes we forget that, and coming alongside them in the learning process, and much like what you're doing, coming alongside your fellow educators to bring them up and help give them the tools so they can succeed, so that they feel like they can be competent and educated and help their students succeed in the classroom as well. Silvana, did you have more to add to that as well? I thought that was a really great point.
I agree with everything that you said, and one strategy that I found that it's effective and it's okay for me to be implemented by me is showcasing of success story, sharing how we implemented the starter packs in our classroom and how they have positive impact on student engagement and learning outcomes. I have implemented this kind of strategy. For example, I had my experience in transnational cooperation activity events that happened in Serbia and North Macedonia. And really, teachers showed great interest for these tools. But I believe that this approach would be more effective if it is combined with hands-on demonstration and workshops with teachers. Because maybe some teachers want to, but they have some fear, maybe, I don't know. And when there is another teacher to help them, the situation is a little bit different. So if we have opportunities to work to help the teachers, as you already mentioned, combined with showing our successful stories, I think it's one of the good strategies for motivating other teachers to be engaged with starter packs.
Yes, agreed. It's okay to brag about yourself. It's okay to say I did something awesome. And even though some of our ambassadors won't always do it for themselves, that's why we have our ambassador spotlights. And we get to invite them to amazing things like this, where we get to say, look, they're doing all of these amazing things. One last question, and then we can get to any of the other Q&As that we had. How have you adapted SFI resources? And Silvana, you touched a little bit on this too, and I spoke just a little bit on that. Like, how have you been able to adapt the SFI resources to meet the unique needs of not only your students or the specific content that you need, but to maybe your school and your community as well?
Yes, we already touched this question a little bit
in
my presentation, but yes, I will repeat it once again, that I always review and adapt. Every teacher, I suppose, always review and adapt the idea of resources that she would use in its classroom to ensure whether they meet their students. First and foremost, it's crucial to connect with national educational standards, I suppose, ensuring that Every activity aligns with the curriculum. Absolutely, that's what we need, because we need activities that are connected or near connected with our national curriculums. And also, it's important that the context in which the learning is happened, and the most students' prior knowledge, so as to determine how these activities would be or can be actively engage the students in activities. And additionally, maybe we should take care about skills of students, not only the level of knowledge, but the skills of students, the students that possess. And teacher always need to focus on those skills and to provide appropriate support when it's needed, whether by scaling the task, adding maybe more complex tasks, offering some visuals as aids, and so on.
Right. I think you make a really important point, because we talked about being able to adapt for like the different content area or the different grade level. But even within that is, within a grade, you have a varying set of skill sets within your classroom of students. So, and I think one of the great things about the SFI starter packs is many of them, when you download, have different extension activities. So a lot of times, maybe needing to scale things back for our students, making it a little bit more approachable. But many times we have our students who are needing more. They need that supplemental item, one, so they can continue to push their knowledge and push themselves. But sometimes because they're doing so well that they get done with things, and you're like, okay, what else can I do to help, engage them and help them take this to the next level? Many of the starter packs have, these extension activities or additional items that can be utilized for, maybe you have a group of students that it clicks really quick and they just need that next level, which, we want to encourage that higher level of thinking. How could we take that to the next step? So that differentiation and that scaling within the classroom as well is, I think, is a really important piece. Did anyone else have a comment on that? Or do we have, I know we have just a couple of minutes left. Any questions from the comments? I've been trying to watch them a little bit as we've been chatting.
Thank you, Margaret. We actually have one question that I think it's important to address, because it was mentioned several times, I think, during the webinar, but it's important to highlight it again, because Camelia asks if this app, and I believe she's referring to the starter pack, can be used for by some other teachers who teach other subjects, like, for example, English. And the short answer is yes, because there's hundreds of starter packs that span to different subjects and domains. But I'll let you, Margaret, as the expert to dive a bit more into this question and clarify maybe this stuff that some of our viewers might have that don't teach necessarily computer science or STEM related subjects.
Yeah, of course. So our starter packs are not necessarily only for, our STEM subjects that we generally think about. We have created our starter packs for all different subjects. We have some that are on social emotional learning, language arts, humanities. It spreads the gamut. And I think that kind of goes back to our last question as well, is, these resources, all of them, when you download them, you can edit. And I think probably a large majority of our ambassadors here have kind of seen that, and you're able to go in and tweak items. So for instance, if you download, we've had another ambassador who is from the States, who had they don't teach it was designed for English language arts. However, he taught like a STEM invention class where they were working on creating inventions. Well, he took that starter pack that was designed for, learning about ethos, pathos, and logos. That was English, grammar, that type of thing. And he took that content and he was able to look through it and say like, okay, I really love the overall concept of what's going on here, but I'm going to, spin it a little bit. Again, we're using our teacher superpowers here, right? We're able to take the kind of the framework, right, that and put our own little spin on it so that fits not only the content that we're teaching, but it fits the need of our classrooms. It fits the subject that we're teaching as well. So any of these, I always like to say with any of our starter packs, as they will be aligned to a specific grade, they will be aligned to a specific standard or curriculum and a specific subject, but they never have to stay there. You could download a physics one and use it in a social emotional setting if there was a link that you saw between the two in the curriculum and the content that you teach. There are not hard and fast rules on how the starter packs have to be utilized. And that's the same for grades as well. We've had another ambassador that has used a starter pack that was mapped for middle school, tweaked it, used it for students elementary, middle school, and high school. So spread the entire gamut with one starter pack, but adapted it for all of the different age ranges so that they, again, with this, it's a different type of scaling, but took the starter pack and scaled that throughout all of the different grade levels. I hope that answers that question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Margaret. And thanks again to our ambassadors for this insightful roundtable. It's been wonderful to hear your experience and thoughts. And now, since we are also running out of time, to build on what we have discussed, I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of key points and providing our viewers with some links again and do some small general remindings. So first of all, I would encourage everyone to register to the Intel platform and take advantage of the incredible framework and resources available that today we have seen some part of it. By using the code UNSFI, you can unlock valuable content that can enhance your teaching practice. You will see in the chat the link to the platform, and again, using the code that you can see here on the slide, you will be able to register to the platform and access all the resources. Then also, I would like to invite the viewers again to consider joining the Intel Ambassador program through the same platform. This is a great opportunity, of course, to connect with a vibrant community of educators who are passionate about innovating teaching, and who knows, maybe you will end up in the next webinar with us and Intel. Then I'm also excited to share that we are already in planning stages for the 2025 edition of the STEM Discovery campaign, which will launch in February next year. This edition promises to bring many surprises, and you won't want to miss out. So to stay in the loop, I encourage you to download the app. You can use the QR code that you can see here on the screen. And so you will just be a click away from the latest news and upcoming initiatives. Then, talking about being up to date with our initiative and activities, be sure to follow us on social media. We regularly share updates and engaging content that can inspire your teaching and keep you informed about new opportunities in the world of STEM education. Then again, lastly, I will recommend you to subscribe to our newsletter. In each edition, we share valuable information and resources for teachers and educators provided by our partners. And don't forget as well to sign the signature list to receive a certificate of participation for this webinar. Then, as we come to an end of today's webinar, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank all of our speakers today, Margaret, Semih, Todor, Stavroula, and Silvana. Again, thank you for your valuable insights and expertise. It's been truly inspiring to hear about the innovative approaches and the strategies you shared. And I know that everyone will leave today with new ideas and tools that they will bring into their own work and classroom. A big thank, of course, to all of you who join us today and actively participated with your questions and with your comments. Your engagement makes events like this meaningful and impactful. And before we go, just a quick reminder, we'll be following up with you, with each of you who signed the signature list by email. You will receive a certificate of participation. You will receive the presentation that has been shared, that have been shared today, and other useful information that have been shared today during the webinar. So keep an eye on your inbox, and don't forget to check out the resources we've discussed today, and keep an eye also for future webinars and events. Thank you once again for being a part of this session, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future, and have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.